and welcome to the Kemetic How-To Guide. This is Sharon. First of all, I want to give a shout out to all of my subscribers. Thank you so much, because y'all are the reason why this channel is here. And I want to apologize to you guys because I'm going to have to change the settings on my videos, and that means, comments will have to be vetted before they actually get posted. And the reason for this basically is because, I've been getting some racist comments on some of my videos, and, about after the third or fourth one, it ceases being funny. So, today's topic is on Kemeticism and racism. Now, I didn't address this before in the past because I really don't think it's that important. We're talking about spirituality and the gods, and race shouldn't come into that. I think the fact that race gets involved in religion is a little obscene. But I'm going to set the record straight, and hopefully this will be the last time, I ever address the issue. Now, first off, were the ancient Egyptians black? Some of them, yes. For example, meet my hair curry. He's actually from Nubia, which is to the south of Egypt. Modern-day Sudan is where most of that area is now. But my hair curry served under, we're not sure if he served under Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, or Amenhotep II. It's all in that same time period. But if you'll notice, and I'll show it again, I'll try and get it as close as I can here. Yeah, that's a black guy. They did live in the area of Egypt and just to the south of it. But not all of them were. Let me introduce you to these guys. And by the way, all of these are photographs of original papyrus. These are how the Egyptians represented themselves and their neighbors. Notice you got a couple of different skin tones in here, if you really wanted to be particular about it. And here, let me show you some other guys and gals. Now, arguing over whether or not that's black is about like arguing over Michael Jackson's ethnicity. Come on. Now, there were also foreigners that came into the country, and, let me show you a couple of those. Here's some folks from Syria. I'm going to let the camera adjust on that. Come on now, get a little closer. There we go. And then you see several different skin tones there, too. You also notice that they're dressed a little differently. I'll get to that in a minute. Now, what's really interesting is that, if I can find my bookmark here. Here we go. You also had some folks. Can you see these guys? These folks are from Crete. There are also some folks, you'll notice that there's some Greek elements to these mosaics here. This is actually from a palace found in Egypt during the reign of Hatshepsut. But those were Greeks in those pictures, which means you had Europeans coming to Egypt for a very long time. So there were a lot of different ethnicities in Egypt at one time. And the Egyptians were not racist. They were xenophobic, which is different. They were equal opportunity about it, because if you'll notice, this is from a chest of Tutankhamun's, and I'm trying to get to where you can see both pictures. You'll notice he's fighting enemies that are both black and Asiatic. That's Palestinian to you and me. So, it didn't matter what color you were. If you weren't practicing truth, justice, in the Egyptian way, then you were a bad guy. Now, it's been argued that Kemet, which means black land, is referring to black people. But if that's the case, then why does the Egyptian word Dashret, which means red land, refer to the desert that nobody lived in? And why did they call the Mediterranean Wajur, which means Great Green? And why was the ancient capital that we know as Memphis called Inebhaj, which means white walls? The thing is, the Egyptians, they really did something that we should be doing. They labeled their geography by color, not their people. Now, I'm familiar with a lot of the arguments. A lot of the controversy that you have now comes from a book called Black Athena, written by Martin Bernal. Now, Martin Bernal, very interesting person. He's from Britain, and his maternal grandfather was Sir Alan Gardner, the person who wrote this book. This is, like a standard. If you want to understand Egyptian language, this is the book you get. But here's the thing. His grandson, Martin Bernal, pursued his doctorate in Chinese studies. And during the Vietnam War, he learned Vietnamese. He did Black Athena as a side project. And a lot of his arguments that a black African culture were the original Phoenicians and the original settlers of Greece, and were then overrun by Europeans. A lot of the arguments that he makes for that are based on linguistic comparisons that have since been challenged. And depending on who you talk to, they've been outright disproven. I know there's still a lot of controversy about that. But the thing is, there hasn't been a whole lot of evidence to support that idea. Excuse me a minute. Now, another thing that's interesting, I have a friend who's Phoenician, and he runs a really wonderful Greek and Lebanese restaurant in the area. And, he argued that the Phoenicians are the original settlers of Greece, but he didn't argue of an African connection. So that is something that, depending on where you go in the world, you're going to get a different story on that. So who's right? It gets real hard to tack that down. Now, to be fair, the word Kemetic that we use today was probably coined by the Asara Set Society. And I'm aware of these folks. The group was founded by R.A. Strawn, now known as Ra'una for Amun, in 1973. What's interesting is R.A. Strawn started out in the Rosicrucians. And at the time, the Rosicrucian Society was segregated. And kudos to them for starting a group. If they're going to segregate, why be part of a group like that? But a lot of stuff from Asara Set Society actually draws from Rosicrucianism. And there have been spin-off groups to come since then. I've seen some of them on YouTube. You have Kemet New, you have Kemet Way, and a whole host of others. I'd like to think that sometime in the future, when we're looking at the history of Egyptian paganism and Kemeticism as a religious movement, these groups are all going to be a part of that. And I find it interesting to learn about them just because of, the history that, is represented there. But the problem is they take black pride and bring it into the territory of black separatism and superiority. And, I've had comments. You can see them on my YouTube page, people calling me a European cave woman, or a parasite or whatever else. And, I heard some pretty similar comments coming out of my racist grandparents. Do you really want to sink to that level and make people like that right? Come on. Besides, if you wanted to judge by what people look like, believe it or not, I'm Caucasian and Native American. But I've had people tell me, well, you don't look Native American. How would you feel if somebody told you you don't look black? It's the same thing. And final point. Ra said in the monologue of the Creator, I made every man like his fellow, and I did not command that they do wrong. It is their hearts that disobeyed what I have said. When we're all judged in the court of Osiris, what's put on the scale? Our skin or our heart? To the gods, this matters. This doesn't. So, for the Kemetic How-To Guide, this is Sharon. Wishing you Sanupti.